A strange metallic sphere found in Colombia has left scientists speechless, a perfect object that can't be cut, scanned, or explained. And Bob Lazar, the man once ridiculed for his claims about alien technology, says he's finally cracked its code. What he found points to something alive, something that can store memory, respond to thought, and possibly rewrite biology itself. If he's right, this discovery shouldn't exist. Let's discover how Lazar says he broke the code. It all started when these files arrived on Bob Lazar's encrypted server. He had no idea that inside, he would find high-resolution scans of a metallic sphere found near Buga, Colombia, an object that scientists had tried to cut, melt, and scan, without success. All of their instruments failed in the face of this inexplicable object. In the files that Lazar received, there was also some data, including spectral readings, magnetic resonance plots, and a narrow strip of symbols engraved around its circumference. It didn't make much sense, but within days, he claimed to have broken the code. What could someone possibly discover from a set of scans that entire research teams had failed to explain? How could a simple pattern of symbols lead to something that shouldn't exist? And most importantly, what did the Buga sphere say back? Lazar sat alone in a dark lab, meticulously studying this data that everyone else considered meaningless. He was working off the grid, away from government supervision, using an isolated terminal. The only thing he had from the sphere were a set of readings, multi-angle X-rays, density maps, and a sequence of 24 repeating glyphs separated by small triangular markers. There was no metal to touch, no instrument to probe, no material sample to test. All he had was math and intuition. In an interview later, Lazar described his first reaction as familiar but wrong. To make sense of it, Lazar began feeding the readings into a custom pattern recognition algorithm he'd written years earlier. The goal was to find repeating signals or patterns that ordinary analysis might miss. He treated the sphere's data as if it were sound rather than structure, translating density and electromagnetic resonance into frequencies the human ear could interpret. In plain terms, he turned the sphere into a song, and the song didn't sound random. When he plotted those frequencies on a timeline, each spike corresponded almost perfectly to the placement of one of the 24 symbols inscribed around the band. The pattern looped over itself, like a sequence meant to repeat indefinitely. From there, Lazar began what he called waveform mapping. This means taking each symbol and assigning it a unique frequency and phase, essentially the tone and timing of a wave. Imagine if every letter of the alphabet had its own musical note, and when you strung them together, they created a melody that was actually made up of letters and words. That's how he approached the glyphs, as components of a melody. And when he ran the complete sequence, something unexpected happened. The waveform that emerged almost perfectly mirrored the oscillation pattern of the human hippocampus, the region of the brain responsible for memory formation and spatial awareness. At first, Lazar thought it was coincidence. But when he adjusted the sequence slightly, stretching it, compressing it, layering harmonic over harmonic, the pattern didn't disappear, it stabilized. In neuroengine terms, the waveform exhibited coherence, a kind of internal balance seen only in living biological systems. To test this further, he cross-referenced the pattern with databases used in protein synthesis research. And things became even stranger when he discovered the 24-unit sequence aligned with a known structural rhythm in protein chains, as though the symbols were representing a molecular formula. He described it as a peptide code. Lazar's claim grew bolder. He suggested that each glyph corresponded to both an electromagnetic wavelength and a phase timing, like a multilayered instruction telling energy how to behave. When arranged in the correct order, the waveform matched the firing frequency of hippocampal neurons recorded in medical studies. To simplify, the pattern pulsed like a living brain. It was as if the object, though metallic, was carrying a memory signal, no less than a form of consciousness frozen in structure. At this point, Lazar turned his attention to the sphere's internal composition as described in the lab's X-ray tomography. The scans showed a complex copper lattice suspended between layers of denser alloy. Most researchers assumed it was a power grid or stabilizing structure. Lazar disagreed. In his experiments, he found that the sphere didn't behave like a circuit at all. Instead, it modulated, alternating between conductive and non-conductive states. In other words, The copper wasn't designed to carry power. It was designed to pulse. This means the sphere might have been engineered to record, store, or even transmit patterns of consciousness itself. Lazar didn't say the sphere was alive, but he implied it could behave as though it were. The turning point came during one of Lazar's late-night simulations. He uploaded the full dataset into an AI model built to predict how the Buga sphere's energy field might react. But when the simulation reached its peak, something happened. Unbelievable as it sounds, the program started generating new data that wasn't part of the input. The signal, rather than fading out, actually looped back on itself, forming what scientists call a recursive loop. Then came the real shock. The computer showed a sudden feedback spike, and 3 words appeared on screen. It responded back. The lab's instruments started lighting up, showing readings that matched Lazar's synthetic brainwave model. The AI wasn't built to send or receive messages, it was only supposed to simulate data. Yet it looked like something had answered, either from inside the sphere's data or from somewhere else entirely. The system automatically shut down as alarms went off. A low, rhythmic hum was recorded, later leaked online. Some said it sounded like human breathing. Others called it static. Skeptics blamed a software glitch, until the same thing happened again days later on a computer completely offline. Lazar became convinced this wasn't just a signal but a living mechanism, metal that could somehow mirror the brain's electrical patterns. If that's true, it changes the question entirely. What was the Buga sphere listening to? Proof or hoax? What the labs found. When the Buga sphere was finally brought out from the vault for physical analysis earlier this year, even hardened materials scientists reportedly stepped back in disbelief. What they saw didn't behave like anything forged, cast, or grown on Earth. The sphere gleamed under white light like a mirror made of liquid metal, perfectly reflective yet strangely soft at the edges, as though it absorbed the air around it. The surface was so flawless that not even a fingerprint would stick. Laboratory drills skidded off as if striking diamond, leaving no mark. When they tried industrial cutters tipped with tungsten carbide, the tools simply fractured. For context, diamond is measured at 10 on the Mohs hardness scale, the highest known natural rating, but the sphere resisted indentation entirely. If the reports are accurate, this object isn't just harder than diamond. It's actually measurable hardness altogether. So, if the Buga sphere really is harder than every known material, what exactly might it be protecting inside? To uncover the truth, the labs conducted a full range of non-destructive tests, high-energy X-rays, scanning electron microscopy, and mass spectrometry on airborne particles shed during handling. The X-rays revealed a layered internal structure, 3 concentric shells of increasing density, wrapped around a spiderweb-like network of copper filaments radiating toward a dark central core. Under scanning electron microscopes, the lattice appeared surprisingly organic, almost like neural tissue frozen in metal. No seams, welds, or machining marks could be detected. Inside, the copper spider network caught the most attention. Traditional engineers would read it as circuitry, an intricate electrical grid meant to carry current. But when Lazar and others modeled its conductivity, it didn't act like a power network at all. Instead of directing energy, it seemed to modulate it, opening and closing in rhythmic intervals. The dark central node was described as the heart of the object, though no biological residue has ever been confirmed. What makes the Buga sphere even stranger are its acoustic and electromagnetic properties. When exposed to alternating current fields within a certain frequency band, typically between 7 and 9 Hz, the sphere emits a low hum, deep and rhythmic, often accompanied by flickering in nearby equipment. Oscilloscopes register electromagnetic bursts that fall in sync with the hum, though these are unpredictable. Sometimes the readings spike dramatically, other times they vanish entirely, as if the object decides when to respond. The experiments were repeated in shielded environments to rule out interference, yet the phenomena persisted. On top of this, Lazar's peptid code theory left everyone even more stunned. He said the 24 symbols carved into the Buga sphere matched the electrical charges of a 24 amino acid chain, like nature's code for building proteins. Each symbol, he claimed, represented an amino acid based on charge and polarity, forming a pattern that could fold like a real peptid. If true, the sphere might encode something alive, or an artificial version of life. Experts suggested tests like sequencing, residue analysis, and lab synthesis, but for now, nothing has been carried out conclusively. One of the biggest questions surrounding the Buga sphere is where it came from and how it was handled. The official story claims it was discovered in the hills north of Buga, Colombia, in the late 1990s, unearthed by local miners who thought it was a meteorite. From there, it allegedly changed hands through a series of private collectors before being transferred to a research facility under sealed contract. That chain of custody has never been fully documented, raising possibilities of contamination or tampering. Independent replications have made things even murkier. A small team in Switzerland said they managed to repeat Lazar's electromagnetic results using a coil setup that copied the sphere's inner structure. They claimed to see brief drops in temperature and hear faint harmonic tones when electric current was applied in certain patterns, but no data from those trials has been released publicly. A group in Prague tried something similar using magnetic fields and found short bursts of static, but their results were also unclear. Satellite monitoring added yet another layer of mystery. On the night one of the Swiss tests reportedly took place, several amateur radio operators detected synchronized electromagnetic fluctuations at nearly the same frequency range as the original sphere readings, around 8 Hz. NASA's own geomagnetic sensors picked up a minor anomaly over Central Europe that same night, though there's no confirmed link between the two events. For every new piece of data about the Buga sphere, there's a missing control, and for every extraordinary observation, an equally reasonable scientific explanation. But the deeper investigators dig, the more the object defies conventional categorization. It's metallic, but it resonates like a living cell. It's harder than diamond, yet it vibrates to the rhythm of thought. But up till now, no one has yet been able to explain how the Buga sphere does what it does, or why it sometimes seems to answer back. When technology crosses into consciousness. The reason why Bob Lazar's claims about the Buga sphere are so incredible is because, if those claims turn out to be real, it would be a biological breakthrough with massive implications for how we think about human consciousness. A machine that encodes peptids and brainwave rhythms isn't just storing data, it could be storing something closer to experience itself. Think about that for a moment. A device that can turn patterns of thought into molecular instructions might be able to create compounds that influence memory, emotion, or even consciousness. Like, comment, and subscribe.